Suge tried to destroy my record company with the help of others, Dre. So right now we're getting everything back together and we finna come out, fully loaded.
Andre wanted Eazy dead.
Suge Knight has decided that there ain't gonna be no peace for his ops. From the RJD Correctional Facility in San Diego, Suge has been doing a whole lot of interviews and he's letting it all out. And this time on Tyron Turner, Daz Dillinger, Biggie, and even Eazy E. Suge got story for days. And what we about to do is rewind and unpack it all. The last time Suge did one of these interviews, his targets, Dre and Snoop. And he basically called Snoop a liar when he said that Snoop never turned up at the hospital to see Tupac, like Snoop said in his version of the story. Suge says Snoop actually pulled up to the guest house where he spoke to him and Tupac's mom.
Snoop didn't go nowhere near the hospital. So when it happened, as you know, for some strange reason, but now we know the real reason, Snoop did not attend the fight with us or the club, the after party at Club 662. And what's so crazy about that, we thought it was strange that he wasn't there. This is the first one he did attend. And according to Warren G and everybody else, now we know why he did. But to get straight to the point was this. I was at my house in Vegas and I started calling Snoop, telling him, hey, what's up? Like it's something wrong with this situation. Pac in the hospital, you come holler at him, come check on him. So he drove down and I was at the house waiting on him. And Tupac's mother was at my house. So we back by the pool, and then the pool area is like two big guest houses. So as when Snoop come up and there's other people out there, we walk in the back to talk. As we start talking, I said, I'm on him. Like, man, why you ain't here? You should have been at the hospital. And then Tupac's mother was there, the Fanny. She was like, yeah, I know you should want to see him. He told her, he was like, well, look, Tupac hates me right now. He mad at me. He hates me. So I feel bad, and that's why I didn't go up there. And Tupac's mother said, well, look, Pac was mad at me too for a few things I'd rather not. Well, for some stealing shit, she said, right? But we all do that with our mothers. So she said, well, he was mad at me too, but that's my son, I'm there. And if he hates you, you still supposed to go do the right thing and go visit him, right? So as we start talking, Snoop did start crying and fell down and start throwing up, like literally throwing up, right? So we looking at him like, damn, what happened to this dude? I don't know where you get all the extras from, but they had a conversation at the hospital and all that. That's absolutely not true. Say less, if you know what I mean.
And on top of that, he also claims that Snoop Dogg, totally unprovoked or asked for, promised to name his unborn child Tupac if he was a boy.
He said, look, Boo Boo is pregnant. That's Shantae, Snoop's wife. By the way, that's the homegirl. She good people. So he told both of us that Boo Boo's pregnant. If it's going to be a boy, he going to name him Tupac, after Tupac. She had a boy, and they named him Cordell. That's Snoop's last son with her.
But the problems with Snoop started long before that, because according to Suge, when they worked over a bad boy goon who tried to make a move on Suge, everybody was getting licks in except Snoop Dogg. Guys like Pac and Dre were eager to prove a point, but Snoop allegedly just stood aside and watched it all go down.
Pac and them got mad at Snoop because Snoop the only one, besides myself, when I said everybody my bag, Snoop the only one didn't participate of beating the dude's ass. But Snoop was a good dude. He always had a good heart. He was like, nah, man, how he talked with that little Michael Jackson voice. He was like, nah, man, that because he worked for Bad Boy, we don't have to be doing all this. And this the West Coast, but we don't got nothing against it. That's the conversation, basically.
And the story gets nastier from here, because they allegedly started pissing in the champagne bottles and making dude drink it. According to Suge, this is where Dr. Dre gets freaky too, because he then proceeded to beat the guy's ass, if you know what I mean.
He probably ain't gonna tell the police that somebody has with him. As you know, usually when something crazy happens, nobody don't want to give on the police report to them. Oh, they had with me. Oh, they did this with me. So I'm just thinking, no. So Andre, and it's real talk. I don't care who believe it, don't believe. I have no reason to lie. Andre was like, but believe me, it's not the first time that rodeo happened, because we all seen certain things they did, if you know what I mean. So, believe it or not, Dr. Dre beat it up a little bit.
He then stayed on Snoop's case, pointing out that he too could also be in prison and that his business isn't straight. Suge says Snoop's purchase of death row ain't legit and that instead of paying security and sleeping with one eye open, he could instead get his business right and pay him the money he's owed.
And got sued for the civil case. I just found out you never paid my money back. I had to pay some of that for it. You didn't even have an album out. You owe me, but you ain't too smart, because if somebody really owe you, if you really owe somebody, pay that person their money. You're going to spend more money on beefing up security or living in fear. Or when I come home, knock on my door and explain to me why you not going to run me my bread. You don't got to talk tough. We don't got to talk about each other. That gets nowhere. Whoever have a situation, we can have a situation. But one person or 3 or 4 people is not bigger than hip-hop. We should be trying to figure out how to make hip-hop better. Everybody destroying hip-hop. You guys are making it work. If they do a stream, and if you do 1 million streams and you only get $300, that's not a sign of slavery. That's worse than being a slave. Snoop, that's getting the rate without the baby oil. But at the same time, what's to talk about? If you have death row, you destroyed it. You messed up the name. Why you not doing something with no limit? You didn't want to be on death row. You was a no-limit soldier. Once you the same guy, then you had to get away from the P, because P selling drugs, his own drugs, killed his own daughter. How would I know he said, you didn't say that? You didn't say it to me personally. We all know you said it. For doing something against the homie, the last thing I want to see you in handcuffs. I know you can't handle it. I know you can't deal with this, and I don't want to see you in prison. And you're not going to be in prison. Not on my watch, but you know your role, what you participated in. You know your role, what you put up. And for you to still lie, become Pac like y'all was friends, it's sad. It's sad to the fact that
when Pac started to blow up, he was getting hot at everybody because they weren't riding for one another like he does and the whole group used to do. Suge Knight claims that when Snoop Dogg was battling the murder trial, he and the lawyers asked Dr. Dre to take the stand as a character witness for Snoop, but he refused, which led to Pac getting into it with Dr. Dre a little bit.
When Snoop trial was going on, I needed Andre to go up there and be a character witness for him. And he didn't want to do it. So the lawyer's like, man, you gotta go. We need you. He said, man, he was like, you better cancel that. It's up to me. He going to prison. So Pac was like hot about that because Pac had so much love. Snoop, that's another thing about Pac so much. He was like, I'm riding for this dude, and he ain't riding for me. So that's how it all started going bad.
And lastly, when Pac died, Suge Knight inherited that beef with Dr. Dre and Eminem, and 50 Cent also inherited it from Dr. Dre after they got signed under his Aftermath label. This led to that whole situation where Suge Knight turned up with a bunch of Mexican gang members to 50's In the Club video shoot and tried to create a little bit of chaos. Suge says that Eminem and the G-Unit guys weren't actually being tough guys trying to stand up to him, but instead called the cops and got him into trouble for violating his probation.
When they opened that door, they didn't see nobody leaving or running. They seen bald-head brown, long-haired black, and bald-head black saying, come on. Next thing you know, they said they called the police. Next thing you know, you hear sirens. The helicopter shining the light. We barely got out of there. After I got out of there, I had about like 50 did an interview with Newsweek, Entertainment Weekly, or whatever. And they asked him about that. They said, hey, didn't they come up there to get y'all? And 50 was like, no, he came. He just wanted to know who the new kid on the block was. They came up there real deep with Mexican gang members, black gang members. He said, is that a violation of Suge Knight parole being around gang members? So, and I ended up getting violated on all that type of stuff. So for Eminem checking me, that's a laughing matter, you know. I mean, it's ridiculous. But at the same time, Eminem, you know, I'm not a rapper. I'm quite sure you can out-rap me. I'm definitely too big to slap the shit out of you. But if that's something you really want to get it, I'm quite sure I could find a little homie in his class and run it, you know. I don't know why everybody got so many stories. For me to be a person who just living my life.
Now, fast forward to this new interview and Suge Knight speaking on Eazy E Now. We know how deep their history actually is. Dre and Eazy E were both founding members of NWA, which was signed to Ruthless Records, a company Eazy E started with the proceeds of his time on the streets. When Dre and the DOC found out that they weren't earning enough on their contracts, they wanted out. This was a slave contract situation, and given Suge Knight had just recently shook Vanilla Ice down for them royalties, he was the guy to meet for the job.
So I go into Doc's contract, and he sold his songs for $100 watch, $150 chain. So when I seen, I never seen anything like it in the world.
Right.
So when I went to go get Doc's situation squared away, that's when Dre came.
Right.
Dre said, well, look, I'm not really from Compton. Everybody used you against me. He said, I'm over here, Ruthless, and I got this deal that for a bonus, if I do 2 records, I'll probably get a swimming pool in my backyard.
Right.
And for the longest time, the real story about how Suge got the contracts been the folklore. Eazy E come from the streets. Now, he wasn't no Vanilla Ice who Suge could just punk out of a position, so there's been a couple of different versions of what exactly went down. He wasn't no Vanilla Ice who Suge could just punk out of a position, and so there's been a couple of different versions of what exactly went down. But word was Suge set a trap for Eazy E using Dre and jumped him. Suge allegedly pulled out a piece of paper containing E's mama's address, and that if he doesn't sign the release of Dre and them other Ruthless artists, she gonna get a visit. And so Suge Knight once again got his way. But in this new interview, Suge says that ain't how it went down at all. And the real kicker is that Dr. Dre wanted Eazy E dead. According to Suge, Dre made the phone call to Eazy E to set the whole thing up. Dre allegedly lied to Eazy E, said he's not gonna work with Suge anymore and wanted his voice on a couple of tracks of his new album. When E confirmed that he was on his way, Dre then immediately left, telling Suge that he wants him to shoot Eazy E in the head and take pictures. According to Suge, he was smiling and happy about it.
When Andre found out Eric on his way, he immediately left smiling, laughing, and rushing the so I'm in the studio. You know anything about a studio?
So when Eazy E showed up, Suge was only looking to do some business and told him they could do a merger. E would be able to keep Ruthless, Suge would have Death Row, and together they could push Jerry Heller out the business.
I had a real conversation with him. I said, look, man, this is a situation. All these groups is on Ruthless. Legally, I'm going to get them out their contract because of all the violations that Jerry did and Ruthless did, and you allowed it to happen. I said, I got at you as a man to man, one black man to the other, and say, you can keep Ruthless. I'm going to have Death Row. We can combine them together. You told me, you talked to your people, and they said, if Jerry's stealing 75 cents out of $1, at least you're getting a quarter. And I thought that was some stupid not to trust. So as I'm talking to him, I said, look.
And this is the part of the story where Eazy E asks to speak with Dre. Suge tells him that Dre wants him dead, and Eazy E breaks down crying when Suge proves it with the phone call to Dre.
He wanted to know where Andre was at. I said, you don't want to involve Andre. That motherfucker wants you dead. He was like, nah. When he didn't have no money, I was taking care of him, paying his rent. I bought the equipment. I paid for the studio time. Without me, it wouldn't be no him. So, all right, I'm going to call him on the phone, and you listen. I'm going to put him on speaker. So I called Andre. He answered. The first thing he said, that motherfucker dead yet? And I did my lip like to tell Eric, don't say nothing. He said, he dead yet? I said, he's pulling up. He said, look, he wanted me to beat the out of him, shoot him in the head, and shoot him in his eye. Oh, then he said, and shoot him in his mouth. And start laughing. I didn't think that old ass nigga had no nuts like that. So, I never in my life seen a grown man look so motherfucking sad. Eric tried to hold back the tears. One tear rolled down, saying like it took an hour to roll down his face. Put a little on it, but that's how it felt to me. Like it was slow motion tears. He said, man, all what I've done for him. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have nothing. He wouldn't be nothing. He want me dead. My mama.
Sounds intense, don't it? And according to Suge, he was able to get Eazy E to sign over his artist by informing him he could do it there or do it in the courtroom. So whether you believe Suge's version of the story or not, the only thing we know for sure is that Suge did find a way to get Eazy E to sign. And Jerry Heller said after his interaction that Eazy E was so mad he wanted to take out Suge Knight permanently.
And I said, what's
going on here? And Eazy said, you know this guy Suge Knight? I said, yeah. He says, well, I'm going to kill him. He said, this guy's going to be a problem, and I think I should kill him. And I said, let me think let me think this thing through. I said, first of all, we're doing $10 million a month with 6 employees. We don't even have a typewriter in the office. I said, we're the most successful startup record company in the history of the music business. And you want to kill this guy? I said, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And you know something?
These days, Hella claims he regrets stopping him.
And you know something? I should have let him kill him.
Yeah.
You know, I would have done the world a favor. He would have done it for sure by himself. You know, he always rolled by himself, and he was fearless.
And we know Eazy E himself had murder on his mind when he was beefing with everyone on death row, especially Suge and Dr. Dre.
Suge tried to destroy my record company with the help of others, Dre. So right now we're getting everything back together and we finna come out, fully loaded.
Eazy was pissed off at Suge for taking Dre, and it was much.
This beef eventually ended sad as Eazy was diagnosed with AIDS in February of '95, and 1 month later, he was dead. Till this day, there are some folks who believe Suge Knight was behind it in some way. And that's because of the weird comments he made on Jimmy Kimmel.
Talk show hosts are wearing.
This is a new thing, right?
Yeah.
See, if somebody gonna do something about it, technology is so high, right?
Right.
So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay.
Way to lighten the mood.
Wow. Well,
when Suge Knight was asked about these comments in the interview with Dialogue, he was quick to shut it down, talking about how he ain't gonna incriminate himself. But he did reiterate what he said before that. It's hella weird for Eazy to die of AIDS so soon after getting infected with it when he was so healthy prior to that.
When you made the comments on Jimmy Kimmel, right, about, Eazy E getting injected with AIDS, did you really believe that, or you were just saying that for attention?
Well, I'm not saying it's true. It's not true. I ain't gonna never say I didn't get this far in life by being stupid. So you gotta be careful with certain questions. I ain't gonna incriminate myself. One thing you gotta realize is that Magic Johnson get AIDS, and Magic's still alive. A lot of other people got AIDS. I ain't never in my life seen a mother look healthy, didn't have no signs of being sick and having AIDS, and the minute he go to the doctor, they submit him to the doctor, and he died that fast. You gotta look at it like this.
So moving away from Eazy E, Suge Knight also got to talking about a couple of other things like Diddy. He says, although Diddy isn't his friend, he also isn't his enemy, and he's sad to see what's going on with him. Talking about how it's hard as a black man to defend yourself in court because the system is rigged. Suge stated that he's going through the same thing, and that's why he chose not to comment on Diddy, because he deserves a fair shot at proving his innocence.
But he's not my enemy. He's still a black man. He's still a man that have kids, maybe even grandkids, who knows. His mother's still living. And I say that because he deserves a fair chance in court. If I get to telling truthful things and factual things, it's a big possibility he will lose in court. And when it's all said and done, I don't want to end up like that. Because if Puffy got to go down, what about the executives and the white executives who participated also? And it's just not fair. I believe in fairness. So I choose not to comment on that situation. I want him to have a fair chance to prove his innocence. I was that type of person.
Then he got to talking about Tupac again, and he responded to rumors that when Pac got in the BMW, he was using Pac as a bullet shield. According to Suge, that ain't true, and he actually got shot in the head while trying to cover Tupac.
Where I got shot at, I grabbed Tupac and put him down and laid on top of him. That's how I got shot in the head. And for those who say, hey, I got graves or whatever else, it's all you gotta do. I'm a betting man. I should live in Loserville. I went to UNLV. Loserville is Vegas. I went to UNLV. I bet all day. Put that money. I can show my x-ray. You'll see a bullet an inch into my skull. You'll see that the doctor's report said if they would have removed it, and if they couldn't remove it, because if it were another inch, I'd have been a vegetable or I'd have been dead. So that makes no sense. How can I use a little man to shield a big ass man? When it comes to people who just want to talk.
And finally on Pac, Suge responded to the long-running allegations that he was cheating his artists on the splits. He said there's no way he could have been taking money out of Pac's pockets because Interscope would have stepped in. He also says if anyone was doing the robbing, it was Interscope, as they used to pay Pac around $400,000 for selling 1 million records. But under death row, Pac used to get at least 2 million.
They wanted to cut ties, but at the same time, he was still technically dialed in to Interscope. Interscope would definitely have to make sure if Tupac supposed to got some money and I refused to pay him, Interscope would have stepped up and had to pay him, or he could have got out the contract between both of them. But like I said before, on the Interscope contract, if Pac sold 1 million records, Pac already would have got $300,000. With me, he would have got 1 million, then I changed that. Instead, if he sold 1 million records, he'd get 2 million. So there was no room from stealing from. But at the same time, I'm not saying something didn't go wrong, because you got to remember one thing.
He also got to talking about Daz Dillinger and how he's sorry for bullying him. And he's been doing it to him for about 3 decades at this point. And then in the same breath, he bullies him again by talking about how he used to take all his girls and how he's just a Snoop Dogg groupie. Make sure to go check out the interview for yourself on the Art of Dialogue channel. Suge Knight got 1 billion stories and been calling everybody out recently. The number one thing he trying to do is get out of jail and be with family. But in the meantime, it seems like he's trying to handle some old business, and he got a lot on his chest. Now, we don't know how true and correct all of the info he's been slipping out really is. However, or is it just a smear campaign against Snoop and Dre? But one thing for sure is we gonna keep listening. And while we keep listening, you keep on commenting. So go ahead, put your comment in, like it, share it, and then click and check out Rap Rewind's merch. Yeah, we got them hoodies, them t-shirts, them crew necks. Check it out. Let us know what you think. All right, until next time, peace and blessings. But one thing's for sure, it's hella entertaining, and we gonna keep on listening.